Now I finish this off, assuming my internet is okay, which you can never know these days. We'll see. We shall see. But yeah, I finished it. I finished the big boy. That's all there is to it. Big boy is finished. Yes, indeed, it is finished. Doopa-doopa-doo, I did it. There we go. We're sounding like big boys today. At least for now, so I should do it while nobody's home. So that way, things are done without error. So I'm just going to get into it so you can watch it archived, not have to risk it go because I know it's going to happen the moment people come home because they're going to start using the internet and they'll frick everything up. I'm going to do it now while I sound okay. I'm finishing it. We're done after this. We're done. And then I have Star Wars and other things to get to. I'll probably read The Hobbit again and Lord of the Rings at some point, but I got a lot of Star Wars got to get through. And I am reading a Halo duology by, oh no, Troy Denning. Oh, and then I'm gonna read all the X-Wing books. The Courtship of Princess Leia. Take another small break, read something else, and then read the Thrawn trilogy, the Tatooine's Ghost and Thrawn trilogy. Anyway, so we are at the Tauren story. Tauren is born when Baron and Luthien met. So during that story of Baron and Luthien, when they met, is when Tauren was born. Tauren's little sister, sad tear, dies at the age of 3, so that kind of sucks. At 8 years of age, he moved in with Thingol, per mother's request. This is all important for stuff going down. Tauren changes his name to Nethan and becomes a leader of outlaws for a little bit. He eventually turns back on that whole thing. He marries Ninul, marries Tauren, who had at this point changed his name to Terabor, which shouldn't do because he's a Tauren, a child of Horan, which means that trouble shall befall him because he is not. He's cursed. So bad things are going to go down. But anyway, so that big dragon boy, not the biggest one, the second biggest one. There's an altercation, taunts. Tauren and him fight. Tauren goes into a sleep, I guess, and Golong actually dies, which then makes it basically be like Romeo and Juliet, where his wife thinks he's dead and she chooses to die, but he's okay. Tauren would then kill Brandir in anger. That was a huge thing in the book. So everything has been going on since the dawn of forever. It's just been defeat after defeat, misery after misery. Nothing happy has happened in a very long time in these stories. Even moments where like Tauren gets married, nothing really happy happens. So it's like, why even bother, right? Horan is let go by Melkor. And, obviously it's not out of compassion because he's Melkor. He's like the being of all evil, Satan incarnate, literally Satan in this universe. And he obviously has some other purposes. But Horan was captive for 28 years. Think about this for my Star Wars fans. Star Wars, okay? The Yusong Vong War was 5 years. It's probably the longest war we've had in Star Wars, right? Vong War. 5 years. Okay? That's a long time. 5 years of war, long time. Horan has been captured for 28 years. That's a long freaking time. Eventually, Horan just kills himself. So again, depression. Nothing happy is in this story. Move on ahead to another big thing, because nothing happy happens because everybody has to be arrogant. Everybody has to be a prideful little tit bag. And we have the dwarves murdering Thingol, because Thingol has the Silmarils and he wants to put it into like this other thing. I forget what it's called, but it, because he wants, he's the king. He wants to have the fairest thing. He wants to have the most, beautiful thing. And so the dwarves make this for him, but, the Silmarils are within it. And the dwarves are like, well, why should we give this to you when we're the ones who spent all the hard time making this thing, right? And so Thingol, in his arrogance and pride, because I'm an elf, I am highborn, I am better than you, he insults them in front of them, telling them how much less than dirt they are compared to him. And it leads to the dwarves murdering Thingol. Nothing happy happens anymore, guys. It's only bad things, because everybody's prideful and evil. Because sin will do that. And then Baron, Baron and Luthien from the story I told last time I did a stream. He goes and kills the dwarves who have the Silmarils, and then they kind of go away. Baron and Luthien, they have a happy ending. They're fine. But the dwarves get their comeuppance. And then we get to the next big downward spiral, which is the fall of Gondolin, because nothing goes right. Erendel, the half-elven, is introduced here, or reintroduced, given more focus, I should say. Maglin is captured and tortured, revealed where Gondolin is, but through sin is a reeling participant. So basically, Maglin has been pretty upset with the Elendro, I think, because he married somebody that he liked. So he gets captured. He's a strong guy, he's resistant, but, after being tortured long enough, he gives him the information. But then not only that, because Morgoth, Melkor, feeds upon that sin, feeds upon that pride and that jealousy, right? He's able to actually willingly make him a participant in the fall of Gondolin. Then we have something called the War of Wrath. Elrond is born. Half-elf, very important. Elrond is the guy from the movie. Elrond. It's the guy from the Matrix. Mr. Anderson, you are disease. We are the cure. So that happens. The Sons of Feynor meet. I think this is. Yeah, the Sons of Feynor. Sons of Feynor. This is a good part of the book where they're like, why am I even doing this? Why are we, because this is like thousands upon 1,000 years ago at this point. Feynor was like, you always must keep the Silmarils, must do all this because I say so. And they've been sworn by that oath. Every single person in his family have been sworn by that oath. But they're so far gone from that. Does it really apply to them? Elrond and Elros, brothers, are captured. But the Sons of Feynor, they, out of obligation, they steal the Silmarils again. They make it away, but then they decide, we don't know, we're done with this cycle. So one of them throws themselves with the Silmaril into this great pit, into the depths of the earth, where the Silmaril can never be found again. And it's lost there forever. Then we have the other one, who throws the Silmaril into the sea, and it's never to be found again. And then he just kind of is mournful and sorrowful about all the things that have gone down. Arundel and Elwing sail to the land we started at the very beginning of this story, where everything took place with the burning of the ships. Heirs of Arundel can choose their afterlife because, they're half elf, half human. And so they can decide if they want that elf life or they live forever on Earth, or whether, they have a short life but they die, after the fact. Also, the Balrogs, the big and mighty Balrogs, get destroyed, except for a few that go into hiding. One of them being the Balrog that will hide in Khazad-dûm, which will be seen in Lord of the Rings. And most of the dragons are destroyed. Even the father of all dragons is destroyed in this epic battle. Okay? And only a few dragons will remain. Like when we see Smaug in The Hobbit. And the battle changed the world yet again a little bit. All right, this is actually right here. So Maedhros is the one that kills himself, and Malgor throws the Silmaril into the sea. And at this final battle, Melkor / Morgoth is finally defeated forever, never to actually set foot upon Earth again and cause problems. That being said, the seeds of fear and hate will remain upon the Earth forever. Then we get to the downfall of Numenor. The last story before we get to things very, very, very familiar. This was one of the most interesting parts of the book for me. Here, we have the Numenorians, who live a bit longer than normal humans. They were an experiment. The Numenorians, they don't live forever like elves, but they also live a lot longer than most humans. They live up to like 500 years. I'm estimating 500 to 1,000. The point is, they live longer than 80 to 90 years. I believe this is the same, blood that Aragorn would come from in Lord of the Rings. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure because he's like 200 in Lord of the Rings, which is vastly older than most people. But they have this whole thing where from where they live, they can see heaven, basically. They can see where the Valar stay on Earth. And they have this whole thing about immortality versus men's mortality and a desire to live forever. Now, men who only live like 80 to 90 years, right, their lives go by so fast, and then they die. So they're mostly concerned with lineage and keeping their family going and stuff. But what do you do with 500 years? What do you do when you live past, other friends you make? Right? And they can see heaven, basically, from where they live. Why do we have to live here and suffer? Why can't we just go now? Why do we, the humans, have to die? Why can't we live forever like you? And so with that pride and arrogance leads to bad things. They were told, they can explore the whole world, but they're not allowed to go to the west. Well, with enough time, they returned to the land of the west. And at this point, Sauron takes the place of his former master. Since his master cannot continue the works of evil, then Sauron will. Here's another interesting tidbit that we learn, not here a little bit later, but I'm going to mention it now. It is said that Sauron was truly repentant of his crimes for helping Morgoth / Melkor, that he genuinely felt bad about it. Sauron actually felt bad about what he had done. He went so far as to I forget what the book says exactly, but Sauron was actually willing to like repent of what he'd done. But then he realized he'd have to go and actually like face the consequences and be like judged by the Valar. And he didn't want that. Yeah, basically, yeah. Basically his CIA boss. But yeah, so he actually was repentant. It says this in the Silmarillion. He actually felt bad. But at the thought of having to actually face his crime, that scared him. So he retreated and hid back on Earth. And over time, he went back to the same ways because he was too much of a coward to actually face up to his actions. And so he falls back harder on his evil ways, making his master proud. And we lead into the fall of Numenor, where he pretends to be like this very fair, attractive, nice-voiced person that's going to become friends of the king, which will lead to its destruction. Tar Ministor, the 11th king, fortifies around the land of Mordor. Regret without the willingness to face the consequence. I'm not sure if that counts as repentance. Well, so what I'm saying is that the book tells us that he was repentant. So it says specifically that he was truthful in feeling sorry for the things he'd done. However, when realizing, like, he was like, okay, I'll face up to what I've done. But then he realized what that really meant. And that scared him. And his fear of the consequences of that. Because they could have very well, they forgave Melkor for a lot of crap. So they could have, made him serve some time in whatever the Valar do. And then he could have been fine. But he's so scared of it being worse that he just went, okay, I'm just going to hide. And in that hiding, doubled down on all the evil things. But I thought that was interesting. It gave more nuance to Sauron than I expected to have. Better theologian than me. I can get out the specific wording. But I know I have you on Discord, so if I find the specific line used, I'll send it to you. But I remember it being true repentance. In the moment, up until realizing what he'd actually have to deal with, because he too was basically an angel, same as Gandalf and the rest of the Maiar. And he too, Melkor at first he didn't start off evil. He simply desired to create, which is not inherently an evil desire, because it's the same desire that Owl had when he made the dwarves. The difference is that when he made the dwarves, Iluvatar came down and he's like, what are you doing? You can't do this. I didn't give you this gift to create. This is my thing. You can't create life. I didn't give you that power. And, the difference is humility with Yule, or how the fudge you say that name, because he just wanted to make something like his father, right? There wasn't any pride or arrogance in there. When Melkor wanted to create things, he's like, I want to make things just like God. I want to be better than God. I don't want to harmonize with God. And with Sauron, it's similar because he desired order. And all he was seeing was chaos. Because he couldn't see the bigger picture because he wasn't God. He just saw chaos everywhere and he wanted control and order. And that's what Melkor promised him, which is why Melkor initially joined up. No, it's not how I personally use those words, but he likely knows better than me. Yeah, no, I get that. Well, yeah, that's true, but he did want to create something. His family was the Valar. He wanted to create something of his own. That's the thing. But the difference between him and Melkor is that when Iluvatar came down and asked him, hey, you can't do this. This is not something I've bestowed upon you. Because he did end up creating the dwarves, but they weren't life. They weren't alive. They were just these puppets that he had to control because he couldn't actually make them a living, breathing, free-thinking thing that required a Iluvatar's power in order to do that. But the difference is from Melkor to him is that when he saw his father, he was like, I didn't mean any offense. I just wanted to be like you. I wanted to be able to create life like you do, because when you're a kid, you see your dad or somebody that's important to you, somebody you look up to doing something, you want to emulate that. Right. Well, it's not even that he repented. He was just simply, his desire was different. His desire wasn't to be better than his father. There was no arrogance in there. There's no pride in his desire to make these things. He just wanted to emulate his father, make his father proud, which is why you have the whole Isaac thing, like from the Bible, where he's about to destroy his creation, and God's like, you don't have to do that. It's fine, and so he allows them to be made. Yeah, sorry, I thought about that a lot. I really enjoyed that. That was one of my favorite sections early on. The creation of everything was also superbly interesting, and then that whole scene with Yule was one of my favorites of the whole book, because the difference between I love that it gave slightly more nuance to Melkor, who's basically just Satan. Because I've heard people make the argument in comment sections when looking up stuff about the Silmarillion, like, oh, well, why? Well, there is no free will in Lord of the Rings then, because Iluvatar just made Melkor evil. No, he didn't. Melkor started off fine. His desire to create things was fine. He just didn't want to do it within the confines of what Iluvatar allowed him to do. He didn't want to sing in harmony with everyone else. He wanted to go his own way. And because of that, the pride of that, the arrogance to think that, no, I could do this different, maybe even better, that was the difference between him and Yule. Whereas Yule that wasn't his feelings about the matter. He just wanted to do that. But I'm kind of a broken record. But yeah, anyway, so with that, Sauron's now on Earth. He's coming in to the Numenorian people, acting as a friend, as a nice guide. And Tar Ministor sought to be the King of Kings, God of men. He didn't just want to be a king in the West. He wanted to be king over all men, which is what he tries to do. But later on, a descendant, Ar-Gilzamor, forbade Elven tongue and was unfaithful, because his people, they followed the Valar and they spoke, the certain words. And then you got one of these guys who's kind of more atheistic. At least that's the vibe I got. It's like, we're not going to do this religious stuff anymore. Stop saying these weird phrases and stuff. I ban it. Frick you. And then we get Sauron the Schemer, and he convinces the king to worship Satan, basically. He becomes close enough buddy with the king. He's like, the Valar and stuff, they are real, but they don't care about you. Iluvatar, they don't care about you. They don't want you to succeed. But who does want you to succeed? Who will help you? Well, Melkor, obviously. So you should start worshiping him. And then he does. He manages to convince the king to do that, and the king convinces his subjects to do that. Crazy sauce. Amandil, we learn, is the counselor of the king, or was, until Sauron showed up. And he has a son, Elendil, and his grandson, Isildur. So now we're getting to names very familiar from the Lord of the Rings at this point. We're getting to things that we have heard before. Oh, no, what the fudge? Oh. Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. And Sauron convinces the king as well to do human sacrifices in Melkor's name. It's just getting worse and worse. Iluvatar, it gets to the point where he's able to get the Numenorians to mount up this huge, raid. They're going to go to the land. They're going to go to heaven, the place that they've been able to see all their lives. but have not been able to go. It's not heaven. That's not what it's called. But it's basically what it is. Heaven on earth, except they can never reach it. But they're going over there anyway. Even they've been told many times that they can't yet. They're going over there anyway. And by doing so, which is exactly what Sauron wanted, they land on the land that they are forbidden to be in. And Iluvatar freaks up the Numerians and literally just makes the whole island disappear off the face of the earth, reshapes the earth again, and keeps the Numerians who set foot on the land trapped to the last battle when Aragorn would use the spirits. And that's it for the fall of Numenor. So this whole Bible has gone through so much, right? We've gone from the creation of the world to right before the Third Age. And then we get, of course, to the most familiar, most well-known, the Third Age, the Rings of Power. Not the Amazon show. This is where it actually talks about Sauron actually being repentful of his actions, which was an interesting tidbit that wasn't included. Hello. Nice. You got that Jason picture, which would piss off Quality Autism if he was here. But good cover. And it's a good book. Sorry. Piss off. Anyway, the Rings of Power, as you would know, made along with the One Ring to rule them all. There are the three rings that were the most powerful sides, of course, the One Ring, were the rings of fire, air, and water, because Avatar. Rivendell is founded. 7 rings were given to dwarves. 9 Sauron gave to men. Men were the easiest to ensnare, and all 9 men became Nazgul's ring race. Sauron hunts down elves, and men grow powerful under Sauron's influence. Arnor and Gondor are founded. Unlike in Numenor, where Sauron pretended to be this beautiful, this kind person, that he pretended to look like. This time it goes for something much more intimidating, a flaming freaking eyeball thing. And then also when he would actively be in battles, which wasn't often because he wasn't like Morgoth. Say what you will about Satan, he actually liked to fight in his battles. Very rarely did Sauron actually like to be involved in those battles. Valinor were trapped till Tagore Dagroth, the oath breaker that Aragorn called on. Oh, okay, that's fair. I might have gotten that confused. There's a lot of information in these books. But you've seen the movie and stuff. He looks like a big imposing foe in that final battle, which is what we're about to get to. The last alliance of elves and men were formed, where they fought Sauron. Not many dwarves helped, except for the kin of Tauren. Very important. There was a siege also for 7 years, apparently, which I didn't realize. Before they actually managed to, yada yada. Isildur cuts off Sauron's hand, takes the ring. You know the story of Lord of the Rings. The Silmarillion, the Hobbit story is so unimportant in the grand scheme of things that it does not even get a mention in this fake Bible. Only the Lord of the Rings, and even then, the Lord of the Rings gets like a page or two. That's how inconsequential, in compared to the rest of the stories that have gone on in the Silmarillion are. Also, last important thing, wizards pop up pretty much right after that last battle. And then they're just patrolling the earth up until The Hobbit and, of course, Lord of the Rings. So that is it. We have gone through the entire history of Middle-earth, basically. I do think that it is a wonderful read. In the grand scheme. To the people involved, well, that's not why, though. That's not why it wasn't that big. The reason The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings were an accident. They were a side thing that Tolkien ended up doing. His pride and passion and his very reason for even writing anything in Middle Earth in the first place was the Silmarillion. The Silmarillion was his goal. That was his, what would you call it? His magnum opus was the Silmarillion. The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings were accidents, side things that he ended up writing as he was figuring out the Silmarillion. But the end goal was always the Silmarillion, which is why, as you see in the stories, that nobody cares about, like the elves live forever, right? Unless they get stabbed or something. They live on. And they remember everything. They have perfect memory. So they know about the things that happened in the first age and the second age. They've seen that big giant freaking dragon that makes freaking Smaug look like an ant by comparison. They've seen all that. So when, the humans and the hobbits come running in, being like, we got to stop Sauron. And they're like, yeah, we know. And you will. Because we did. And it'll happen again afterward. They're getting sick of it because they've done this time and time and time again, stopping Melkor and Sauron's advances. And now it's just Sauron. And yeah, it's a threat. It's a problem. But it's not the biggest thing they've ever dealt with. So they're not as concerned about this particular. That's why when you reread or you rewatch the movies after reading Silmarillion, yeah, to our characters that we care about, this is a very big deal. But when you look at it from the grand scheme, like the elves do, this is nothing. It's why when they come asking for help, they're like, "Here, have some bread, have some ships, be on your way." That's the most help they give. Up until the final book or final movie, whatever you prefer. But hello there, Eddie. How are you? But I'm pretty much done now. I guess I could change this to just talking now, unless people, there's not that many people here, though. Probably because they saw Silmarillion, like, nerd, don't care, which is fair. But it's not that The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings isn't good. That's not what I'm saying. They're great stories. I'm just saying in the universe, it's a very small scale. It feels big scale, and it certainly is to the hobbits and to the humans because they're just little people. But when you look at it from God's perspective, like a Luvatar or the elves that have been around since the first age and have seen the Lord of all Balrogs or the Lord of all Dragons or Ungoliant, the queen of all spiders, then all the stuff that happens in Lord of the Rings is going to seem like small potatoes by comparison. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, Lord of the Rings is great for different reasons. I mean, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit are more, actual stories. This is more an account, as if this was a history book. So it's very much like the Bible, as if it was literally just telling you what went down, which is really interesting. But yeah, I loved it. I mean, there were parts of it that were boring, I can't deny. But overall, it's written really well, and because it's written in that like old style, it just feels so much more grandiose than it actually is. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, I have nothing else to do now. I'm probably just gonna end it. I'm just talking now. Only objection would be God's perspective. He cares about all of it, no matter how grand. Well, yes, all the music that he's playing at the beginning, if you remember with the Valar and him trying to orchestrate this music is orchestrating in such a way that kind of tells you the stories of the entire world. It's all a part of his plan. So yes, everything is important, but I guess more than from the elves' perspective. Because for the elves, they face so much worse than what's going on by the time of Lord of the Rings. So to them, it's an important thing they got to take care of, like going to work is important. But there's always going to be evil as far as the elves understand it. And it doesn't matter how many times they defeat something, something else will always take place. And Sauron will never be as powerful as Melkor is. So for them, it's not as big of a deal. And on top of that, they're just sick of it. They're sick of having to watch people die. They're sick of watching people suffer. They've been watching this for thousands of years. They're just kind of over it. Yeah, no, for sure, though, no matter how grand and world-shaking or personal, that's part of what makes him God. Yes. But I'm just saying that the events of the Rings, after having read the Silmarillion, seem rather small scale. On a personal level, it's really important, though, to all the characters that you meet in Lord of the Rings and stuff. Because it affects them personally, and you care about them, so you care about the story going on, just like God cares about his creations. Therefore, he cares about what's going on. I have not watched it. I have no interest in it. It just doesn't look. It's not Tolkien, but Tolkien's been dead for a while. It makes me wary is that they waited to actually finish the show died because Christopher pretty close to so it just I'm gonna watch it because I know I'm probably gonna dislike it. So I don't say negative things and just be a hate watcher. If I had any interest and then I didn't like it, then I would say something. But I have no interest, so I'm not going to feign interest just so I can bash something that somebody else may enjoy. Oh, my internet died. That's not good. Okay. Oh yeah, for all the others, the elves, my earning. Yeah. But I mean, it's I'm gonna change the title though. To chatting. Hold on. Chatting. I'll change it back later, but in case anybody else shows up. Otherwise, I'm probably just gonna have good internet. I'm reading. I'm because I'm gonna read all the X-Wing books. And I'm gonna read Courtship of Princess Leia, and then I'm gonna take a break from Star Wars to read something real quick, and then come back to Star Wars and read Tatooine's Ghost and the Thrawn trilogy. But oh, you want to drink again? I mean, sure, I guess. Yeah. Overall, but I before I get back to Star Wars, I finished the Silmarillion, and I am also gonna read 2 books in the Halo universe. Which what do you know? It's written by Troy Denning. But yeah, I'm going so far about 60 pages into that, and it's I'm just going to take a break, read some, just read 2 Halo books that are set before Halo 1, and then I'll go back and read again. Device not connected. Stream says I cannot add you because your device and the proper devices aren't connected. But Lopsided, are you still here? What oh, you're the Jason Salome account? That's awesome. I didn't realize. I just thought you're just a random person. That's really awesome. Man, I mean, you got some. I don't think who dislikes post new gender. I can't do. Why is my freaking nothing's? Thank goodness. It won't go away. I guess your comment's just so good. There we go. You can try. It was saying you weren't connected to anything, and I couldn't. Oh, there. Taking a picture for your stream. Hello? Hello? You.
Is it working now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
It's just slightly unplugged. Okay. Alrighty.
Nice.
So yeah, I was gonna say, like I said, most of the post I've read Millennium Falcon, Mercy Kill, and the Swarmore. Swarmore just it was all right, but just didn't really do it for me. So
yeah, Swarm War is not even one of my. Swarm War is okay. I like the stuff with now.
it is kind of funny that they bring back the Bartok assassins, which were basically just invented, like Matt Wilkins says, so they can chop up living beings that aren't
that
won't
people.
upset.
Yeah.
They're insects. They have a hive mind, so individually they're not real, and they regenerate they have the most ridiculously overpowered power creep Wolverine regeneration, where you can cut their brain in half and they'll just grow 2 brains. Which I thought this seems a little bit overpowered for Star Wars and kind of doesn't work on, you need to eat something to have biomass to regenerate with. How are you going to do that if they're literally cut in half at the brain? And when Matt kind of explained the Bartok assassins were from the children's books and they were there for them to kill, I'm just like, oh, because I'd learned about them from the role-playing game. I'm just like, this is ridiculous. This is a little bit too D&D monster, because I was reading the Wizards of the Coast ones, which are based on D&D.
That is a the track record with Troy Denning, right? He so some of the other
he
stuff
started with Dragonlance stuff, right?
Yeah. So he's
which,
written stuff for D&D. So
yeah, Dragonlance is a D&D setting. I remember hearing that he'd started with them. Wait, no, that might have been Knack that wrote for Dragonlance. I don't remember what Denning wrote for. Yeah, Knack, who I knew from World of Warcraft or Warcraft books. He started before World of Warcraft was even a thing. He wrote books that came out around the same time as Warcraft 3. Or a book. His book came out around the same time as Warcraft 3. It was kind of it had some prequely feels for Warcraft 3's expansion pack, now that I think about it, because they had a Naga that scared somebody. And the Naga weren't introduced until Warcraft 3's expansion. And he was playing them up as mysterious, so I think it was between Warcraft 3 and the expansion that the
Marcel
book came
says that Denning wrote for Forgotten Realms.
Forgotten Realms. Oh, please let us forget realms, as Mr. Welch calls them. The Unforgotten Realm. Well, no, the Forgotten Realms are everything in Faerun except the Sword Coast. Sword Coast is the Remembered Realms, because they don't let you fucking forget them.
Richard Knack wrote Legend of Huma and Kaz the Minotaur in Dragonlance.
Ah, all right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I remembered. I actually have a bit of a soft spot for Knack's books in Warcraft setting. They're not very popular. It took many, many books for people to start thinking of Christie Golden the same way as Knack. And honestly, Grubb's The Last Guardian is still the best Warcraft book ever written. It's just fucking fantastic. Basically, it's if you've ever seen the Warcraft movie is a really shitty mix of The Last Guardian and a bit of Lord of the Clans and shit. What was the thing that came out before Lord of the Clans? That came out as a prequel to Lord of the Clans. Fuck. Revanchist might remember it, because he seems to remember everything. It was the book with Thrall's father and Doomhammer and stuff. I forget what it was called, where the orcs practice segregation, where the clans stay separate except every couple months or years or season or whatever, they get together and have a big barbecue. Which always, the I just want to grill political compass memes, I always imagine that as like, the orcs are all around the political compass every other day of the year, except for this one week where everyone's together and they just want to grill. You've got the weird clans that are the Laughing Skull and all the craziness. All right,
That's
no
okay,
problem,
Marcel.
Revanchist. You just happen to know a bunch about writers' previous history, so I thought you might have it off the top of your head.
It's
But
okay.
yes,
I don't know.
it's a
I don't know
fun
that much about the lore of
Warcraft. Yeah.
Warcraft seems
Don't
to be
worry, the people writing it don't know a damn thing about the lore either.
That was such a good laugh that you literally choked yourself to death.
Oh yeah, I've still been coming off the cough from the beginning of fucking
Yeah.
June. Like the last day of goddamn May, I caught this thing, and it's almost gone finally, but there was like some sort of pinched nerve or something in my throat that just I can suddenly just get into a dry coughing fit.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Well, it's apparently quite good at keeping other diseases out of my throat, seeing as 2 of my coworkers got COVID and I fucking didn't. So it's a protective cough, preemptively getting the virus out of my body.
Yeah, there you
go. I have to say, loved Millennium Falcon as far as post NJO stuff goes.
Well, of course
it's Lucino, but I don't like everything Lucino. I didn't. I haven't read everything Lucino though. Then I guess. No, I didn't really. Well, I only listened to the audiobook, which I did find out later was abridged, so I can't say for sure. But I didn't super like Rise of Darth Vader, or was that Stover? Fuck.
No, Rise of Darth Vader is also Lucino.
I didn't super enjoy that. Yes.
He wrote Darth Vader. He wrote The Labyrinth of Evil. He wrote Millennium Falcon, and he wrote books in New Jedi Order.
Yeah.
Traitor was written by Stover.
Traitor was Stover. Fuck. I gotta remember if there's a bunch of adjectives at Stover, because his prose tends to get a little purple.
Very purple. He also wrote the episode 3 novelization. He wrote.
Yep, I know that part.
Shadows of Mindor, and he wrote.
Was Labyrinth him or?
No, Labyrinth was Lucino.
Lucino. I haven't read Labyrinth yet or listened to it. Like I said, I've only done the
Lucino
audiobook.
likes to use big words all the time. That's Lucino's thing.
And several of them in a row.
Yeah,
and just
like
a lot of
big
superlatives.
Thesaurus words that you've never heard of.
It's not even just that, but a lot of superlatives. Like, just I liked the part. It was a little, except in the audiobook. Like, I tried listening to the audiobook part at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith and the various bits about the kids in the galaxy looking up to them. I'm just like, this is really good when you read it in your head, but having someone read it to you, it's almost impossible to have done correctly out loud. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
They had a
So you've read this 4 more, which you didn't enjoy, but you haven't read Legacy of the Force.
No, I have not.
Because you at least have Olston.
I love. Yeah, true. I love the hell out of Mercy Kill. Loved Mercy Kill. Even if it tore my heart out. Yeah, of course. Even if it tore my heart out, I loved Mercy Kill.
Well, it's because Aaron Alston is the GOAT.
Yeah, he's good. It's not the saddest death, which is also Aaron Alston, because I'm sorry, there is no death that actually in Star Wars made me tear up, really, other than that one.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a little for the one in Mercy Kill, but the one in his previous books, like I told you, I think I've told the story before. I thought it was in book 3. When I reread the series for the first time in years, I was like, oh no, it's coming up now. I wasn't ready, and I still cried like a bitch.
Yeah.
Was Mercy Kill's last book? I think it might have been.
Yeah, I mean, probably would have written more into
Last Star Wars book. I don't know if he wrote outside.
Yeah, it was his last X-Wing book. He probably would have written more had Disney not bought the rights.
Yeah. And no, I think he died pretty
You're
shortly
missing
after.
you're missing some Alston books because he wrote 3 out of the 9 books in Legacy of the Force.
I know, and I heard that the idea of a sacrifice was his, although who it was ended up being somebody else's.
Well, Karen Travis is the one that had to do it because it was on her.
Yes,
her book.
I don't think I seem to recall she didn't come up with the idea of the sacrifice, but she did pick the character. And I do believe that killing Pelion was something that they kind of forced her to do as a if you're going to kill a character you don't really like who's attached to a character that you really don't like Luke, you have to kill someone you like, which on one hand it's certainly a test of, something for the author, but on the other hand it's not exactly fair to the fans either, cuz that's just having characters die,
I mean, it was literally the only thing that made sense in the context of the story, and I'll defend that.
Of leading Luke to not just solve the problem.
Yeah, because Luke always could solve the problem by that point. He is the most OP character, even by New Jedi Order standards.
He needed to be afraid of himself in some way. They didn't.
Otherwise,
have
it would have
kill
been
him. They didn't have to kill her. They could have done.
No one else would have made
maimed
sense
or
for him.
They could.
No,
they could.
Maimed her
They could have done
enough.
maimed.
Maiming
it would
her
still
would
be
not
enough
have
that he'd be. It would still be enough that he'd be afraid of himself.
If he
maimed and comatose.
If she was
talking, it wouldn't work. Yeah.
If Luke knows that she's still alive and does that, or does that, then that would be out of character for him. It wouldn't make sense.
Well,
the only way it makes sense is love of his life.
Unless he has to be there to take care of her in some way, or there are other. Like I said, I like coming up with potential other ideas. Like I said, George's idea of
we can't
George
on Travis because it was set around the room between Troy, her, and Alston, and ultimately they all
and probably some of the editors too, I think. But
sure, so they all came to the conclusion that was the best move. It wasn't all on Travis.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of her hyperbolic venting on the forums back in the day. I don't know. It still casts casts the decision in a bit of a, are we sure that's really how it went down light? Because just her her other behavior was a little bit out there.
Well, if she really hated them, it would have been done as respectful as it was in the book. It would have just
fair enough. I don't think she hated Mara, but I know that she didn't really like Luke. Like, she was kind of open about that. Like, having his Jedi Order get made.
It wasn't like, oh, like she's just killed or like Mara. You haven't actually read it, so Mara did significant. She fought hard against Jason.
Yeah.
And when she did die, it wasn't like I don't know. It didn't feel disrespectful when you read it. It felt like, oh, I gotta, there's honor and reverence here to this legacy character.
Yeah, that's
fair enough. The only part I dislike is
was
them
not warning the author. Yeah. Until
like fair, though,
2 months before it hit the shelves, it was already printed or something like that.
But to be fair, if Timothy Zahn was writing something, he wouldn't really care unless it was somebody like
he doesn't really kill. He doesn't.
He didn't write anything in that of a series.
Yeah, I know.
Only wrote things within his universe, so he wouldn't do that to.
I know exactly. He does, and he wouldn't do that to other people's characters because he doesn't bring them in general.
But
without,
if let's say he was a part of New Jedi Order, though, if he was a part of New Jedi Order or a part of Legacy of the Force, he might have. We don't know, but I can totally see him doing it.
He might have, but
then again, he's not a team player, so he wouldn't be in a series like that anyway.
True. Like I said, I was gonna say something. I have to say, I look forward to your reviews of the Adventures of Cor and Horny.
I mean, I've reviewed them before, but I'm going to review them a bit more.
It's just I do like the memes that I don't necessarily like Korean particularly more than one thing or the other. But they have some good points too. Like
I don't hate
they're not.
Horan. I don't love Horan.
No, I
I'm a
never
Ki-
mind. I
I'm
was
a, I'm
talking
a
about.
Kip simp though. I'm a
Yeah,
Kip
I
Kip
like.
simp.
Yeah.
I love Kip. It's my
Yes.
favorite post New Jedi Order Jedi.
Yes. Although I do think it would have been interesting if Kip had possibly come up just a little bit in the whole Pelium Gaversum treaty of there may be a couple Imperials who never face trial because the Imperial, the remnants grounds for extraditing them would be you extradite Kip to us, and we'll extradite them to you, but we will not under any other circumstance extradite these people.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like if some
But I like the
Imperial
idea of it.
potential war criminals avoided
Yeah,
justice specifically because people would not accept turning them over unless their Republic equivalent was turned over to the Empire, that would actually be it would be something else on his conscience that he'd have to kind of deal with.
yeah, yeah. That's fair. To be fair though, there's a large
And
portion of time where we just missed because Jedi Academy happens and there's several years that pass before she was when she shows up in a young Jedi Knight. Before that, we had one short story with him. So if somebody,
yeah, the little
if the
short
EU
stories.
wasn't, if the EU wasn't discontinued, your idea could have been implemented by someone else in another
Yeah.
story or novel or
Yeah,
something. But we
I
didn't do that
think
much
like
with
for
it.
example, when doing it, well, A, Zahn didn't want to get it into too much of the politics, and B, he'd probably realized I've taken enough things that probably might upset KJA. Even I have my limits on that, and
Yeah,
didn't want to lay into the. Although
yeah,
I think
fuel to the
honestly,
fire.
it could have been good for Kip's character to just realize, these people killed a lot of people too, and they claim that they were forced to do it,
Yeah,
and we have no more evidence that the Emperor didn't fuck with their minds, and we have evidence that Exar Kun fucked with yours. We really
yeah,
can't extradite them unless we also let them execute you, and we don't want to do that, which
yeah,
is personally an interesting concept. 1 second. And then, of course, there's the interesting concept of did anyone even have jurisdiction to fuck with Kip? Because he was arguably a citizen of whatever warlords owned his parents' homeworld or Kessel itself, which
yeah,
weren't Republic member states, because very openly at the beginning, Han is trying to get them to join the Republic, which means they're not part of the Republic. And
yeah,
if the Republic acknowledges their independence enough to ask them to give up their independence, then he's not a Republic citizen, and the people he killed were Imperial citizens, kind of,
yeah,
because Karita wasn't officially part of the rest of the Remnant at that time. Hence why they
yeah,
were doing independent, why they were able to get an audience with Mon Mothma. But it's an interesting conundrum. Although I think all Sinner Stackpole also had some interesting bits about that, where the Republic lays claim to basically all navigable space, whether it's but we'll respect the independence of worlds or systems, but navigable space not so much. And I mean,
yeah,
technically, I mean, I guess he technically stole the Sun Crusher from the Jedi, who I guess were acting as agents of the Republic when they put it there. Like, who
yeah,
knows?
yeah. That's kind of Star Wars, except from the prequels, never got super into all that stuff. So.
I wanted to make a 0083 in Star Wars with Turfenir as. The thing is, Turfenir he's not super honorable, but he's slightly honorable, and he wouldn't go full on of Elgato. But
Hmm.
it'd still be an interesting alternate take, which is 0083 Stardust Memory is great. It starts with it's a Gundam miniseries OVA, and it starts
Hmm.
with the Federation making new Gundams, including one designed to shoot nukes, which is
Hmm.
the Xeon remnants, who are not decried as a violation of the wartime treaty, the Antarctic Treaty, which banned using nukes, although it didn't specifically ban testing them, or might have banned testing them, but not, not experimenting with them in other ways short of detonation. Um,
Yeah.
but well, they go apeshit, steal the nuke, and then use it in a series of terrorist attacks.
Mm.
Well, not always. Well, some of it was terrorist attacks. Some of it was attacking a legitimate military target. But
Yeah.
dropping yet another fucking colony on Earth was definitely a terrorist attack. Even if they did try to aim it.
Have you read any Halo books?
Of the what books?
Halo books?
I have a very strict set of Halo canon.
Okay.
The first 3 games, Fall of Reach, The Flood, First Strike, Ghost of Onyx, and maybe Cold
So basically
Protocol.
anything before Bungie left.
I also don't take the Halo Reach game as canon. I hate the Halo Reach game, except for the needle rifle. I hate it.
I can't agree. I really like the story of Reach.
Maybe on an individual squad level, but the overall beats, I fucking despise the super duper carrier, which is like even bigger than the carrier that Regret was using.
I just meant the story.
The individual character story I quite liked. I did not like that the Covenant snuck an entire super carrier onto Reach without being detected and then skipped a huge part of the space battle.
Yeah.
Because I really liked the have you read? Are you reading these chronologically again, or are you?
I am reading these chronologically. I read the parts of the Fall of Reach that led up to Contact Harvest. Then I read Contact Harvest, and now I'm reading 2 books by Troy Denning, which are a year after the Covenant started the attack.
Okay, I thought Denning had only written prequel shit.
No, he wrote 2 books called Silent Storm and Oblivion, and they take place a year after the Covenant started attacking humanity.
Okay.
And it's so it's like 15-year-old John.
Okay, so I think they were like 16 or 17 at the time of the invasion, but I don't remember exactly when it was very shortly after their enhancement.
Well, it's a 28-year war, so there's enough time for other stories.
25, I thought.
When I looked it up on Google,
or 27. I thought 25. I thought it was 2020. 25 to 2052. So it's 7 years. 27 years.
Maybe I don't know. I just saw that Google said 28, but they could be off.
Yeah, and humanity was losing until literally the last 2 months of the war. I had thought there was a bigger gap between Halo 1 and Halo. I had thought there was a bigger gap between Halo 1 and Halo 2, but it's like 3 weeks. And then Halo 2 and Halo 3 are within 2 to 3 days of each of entire length between the 2 of them.
Yeah.
So humanity literally turned the war. The war turned around for humanity within the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Which I found amusing. I'm just like they're losing slowly, but they're losing pretty quickly, honestly, for 25 plus years. And then, oops! Oh hey, Halo showed up. Here's the Halos, and here's the Flood, and oh fuck, there's a Civil War, and
yeah, Civil War really didn't help. But yeah. But I haven't read any of Troy Denning's works in Halo, but this one's starting off pretty fine. It's already given me stuff from the Fall of Reach, which at least it felt like Denning was doing the Star Wars treatment, where he was just like including a whole bunch of things from other books, and it wasn't like on the nose. It was very like just how you.
So
it wasn't
it wasn't like the cantina scene in fucking Swarm War. That was on the nose.
Like that. I mean, Troy's not one of my favorites or anything, but already I'm liking this book, I think, more than most of his Star Wars books. But
that's fair.
It's got the beginning of it. Sorry, before you go on to what you're.
On the other hand, speaking of other authors who've gone to that, the other Star Wars author who went over, oh boy, do I've read the summaries and I fucking buys every single word of them.
What?
For Travis's Halo books.
Oh, I mean, I'm gonna read them when I get to them.
Yeah,
I expect them to be
absolutely assassinate Halsey's character.
Well, you said you haven't read it, right?
I've read the summaries. That she basically makes Halsey into the
Summaries is not
fucking
enough, though.
one.
You have to read it. You can't judge something by not reading. But what I know is that it goes harder on Halsey being a terrible person, which I mean she is, but there's also more
Yeah, but
nuance
she
to
was
her side of
genuinely
things.
fucking regretful, and
Sure,
she
but it's
even
from a new character's perspective. It's not from Halsey's. So I don't mind and thinks that she's the worst person. I thought the same thing about Halsey. Like, well, that's not realistic. Some people are going to be more sympathetic to her, others aren't. Just depends.
Maybe.
I think because she was supposed to be a Spartan or something, but she didn't work properly. So now she's just her body's
She's
messed
crippled.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so she's pissed off. I mean, I would be. I probably wouldn't look at a person very fairly to me. So, I mean, I would like to be a better person than that. And like, well, be a person too. She's probably going through a lot, but you know, when you're in that situation, most clearly, I read it to see it's preachy. Karen Travis always preachy. If you just ignore that, her writing, I think good.
Maybe.
Her only problem for me is being preachy. I usually like your stories. Like for Republic Commando, I think up until after True Colors, then it just starts becoming this fan fiction fest where everybody gets married. I mean, if you like those characters, it's nice to just have moments. But if you are like indifferent, really boring. But up until these are all pretty. One issue in Republic Commando was that I didn't mind the relationship between the Jedi and my issue was how fast she's like, "I love you."
Yeah, that was definitely.
If they developed that in the first one and the second one, that's fine. I'd more down for that. But the issue is, it goes from them being like best buds to like on a dime. I love you, and I want to have your babies.
Yep.
And I'm like,
yeah, that one.
What? In the second book, good. It was just like this is. Her legacy, the Force books are significantly better than her Republic Commando series. Like you were talking about Luke, I didn't really notice that scene, I guess. You see that? There's a scene where Ben talks to Luke. I thought this scene was fascinating because I forget exactly the context because it's been like a year, but he's talking to Luke and Luke's about that Ben did something, and it's like, yeah, but you as a rebel, you were a terrorist, and like you haven't been it for the right reasons, but you didn't just kill, you know, you also blew up the Death Star. There's also a ton of people on the Death Star that weren't.
I mean, yeah, but they know what it is.
Well, if you
Even
read the
if you're
Death Star
running in the
novel,
cafeteria.
if you read the Death Star novel, you know that there's also like hundreds, thousands of slaves on that ship helping build it and maintain it, like the Wookiees.
True enough.
And there are people there that, while they might have known what they were creating, they were like making the living quarters and stuff. And when you're doing stuff like that, you basically have to live on the thing because that's not like a 9 to 5. You have to live on there to make it. So there were plenty of cooks and ships and stuff. People are like, yeah, in the station, but they're just and stuff. So obviously it had to be done. It had to be done. It was a bad facility, but it wasn't just it's only evil people on this ship. They did this conversation about this long conversation about right and wrong, and I did this because you have to, but you do have innocent blood on your hands. And he's like, dang.
Yep.
So. But that was the most. So I didn't see her like actually like, oh, Dad, you're the first person I hate. Like, well, I'm sorry.
And there was the Jaina training arc, which is apparently a little bit of projecting the issues of the old Jedi Order onto Luke's order.
Yeah, I know.
And which has
it's clearly Luke should have orders more of what she would have been asking for. I don't know why she was quite as much. Now, sometimes it comes from Mandalorians, and that happens. It's stupid, and they don't know what they're like anyway, and they always have a grudge against them. But sometimes it comes from characters that it shouldn't, and that's when I get upset. Like I
And
said, I get
sometimes it comes from Mandalorians where it makes sense, but also nobody rebuts them, even though they absolutely could, and they actually
which is
do have
why
the time and inclination to do so.
I
Because
need to read Hand of Thrawn 45 stuff, because
because
he makes a finale to Republic Commando, and he makes it better than all of Republic Commando, and it's a fan fiction. So
like the thing is, in Republic Commando, it always made sense because the only actual Jedi Master was a man who was way too fucking busy, also having his own moral issues with ordering, assassinations and black bag work and the training of and ordering commandos to train up, local militias who are probably going to fucking die horribly as a distraction. And all of that, all of those questionable orders had him doubting himself to the point he just, between that and just not having time, he had no real, and also needing to keep them around because they were just that useful. He had no time to debate Val and Scarada. He just didn't.
Yeah. I do like Barden though. I think I know he's kind of this Mandalorian fanboy, but I really like Juice's character.
Yeah, he's all right. Yeah, he made sense as he just wasn't quite cut out for the Jedi life. He also, and his master was fucking busy.
Yeah. I think Aaron Olston's books, and I know, crazy to say, but I think Olston's and Travis's books in Legacy of the Force are probably my favorite. And then Troy Denning's, like, it's there. But they're not my favorite in any of those. Or Fate of the Jedi. I don't really care for Troy's books in those. Golden's okay, and then Olston, I got pretty negative on Fate of the Jedi, so. But I still want more. I know the EU's never going to get continued, but I heard
that's probably for the best, to be honest, given the quality of how the people are hiring. So.
Well, that's why we have Hand of Thrawn 45, and I can't wait to read it. So, but am I still sounding okay? Am I still sounding okay?
More or less, a little worse than before, but yeah.
No, I'm probably gonna end it soon because I have to go do some stuff.
That's perfectly fine.
What have you been reading or doing lately?
Some Conan audiobooks, some basically Pirate Battletech ones, some automated, so mostly audiobooks while I drive because they have a long fucking commute.
No,
even though one of the X-Wing audiobooks got me a fucking ticket because I wasn't hearing how loud my engine had gotten.
Oh no.
And thus how fast I was going. And they still haven't fucking given me a court date on that ticket, which is really annoying.
Oh, no.
I have to call A, the doctor, and then B, the fucking court. Because the doctor said they should be getting back to me soon.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Well, I think I'm gonna head out. But thank you for coming on.
No problem. You have a great one.
You too, man.
All right.
I appreciate it.
You too. Have a great one.
What time is it for you?
Huh?
What time is it for you?
8:30 Eastern Coast.
Well, have a good night then.
You too.
Alrighty. I'll see you.
Bye-bye.
See you, everybody. Bye-bye.